He's from CPS Energy, so please join me in welcoming Mr. Homer.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, can you hear me in the back? Do I need to stand behind a podium? Fantastic. I got a thumbs up and a head nod. All right, I'll take it. Perfect. As was said, my name is John. I come from CPS Energy, where I've been for just shy of 5 years. And I have the opportunity to be able to kick us off at BSides. How many of you first time to BSides? Okay. How many of you first time to any BSides ever, any other city, et cetera? First timers? Okay, cool, awesome. You're in for a great time. I have a great passion and love for BSides. I have been to, I think, 15 or 16 different cities that have held BSides, and my experience has been this. BSides is the conference I go to when I want to get to the grassroots of things, when I want data and action and stories that actually happened and that aren't just a vendor telling me the story of hypothetically how it could. This is where I get down and go, this is where my hands get dirty. This is the stories that you're going through, I'm going through, and this is where our work matters. I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited to be in San Antonio. This is a phenomenal city. I'm glad to have been here as long as I have, hope to stay forever. And I'm glad to support our local community in this space. I want to kick off by offering a story, and we'll keep it local in this space. So I have a favorite movie. I know quite a few people in the crowd. I'm guessing all of you that I know my favorite movie. My favorite movie happens to be the movie Top Gun. I have grown up since I was about 3 years old wanting to be Maverick. And so a few weeks ago, keeping it local, I went down to Santikos. They had their 40th year anniversary of Top Gun. So I went and I watched Top Gun. There's Maverick, there's Tom Cruise, flying jets all over the sky, saving the world. And then we did a double feature, and so we watched Top Gun Maverick. How many of you have seen? Good. The rest of you won't understand the rest of my talk. That's okay. We're going to go there. All right. So the idea behind Top Gun is you have a fighter jock and he saves the day, saves the world. The idea behind Top Gun Maverick is that you have a fighter jock that's just a little bit too old to actually do it himself. And so he teaches the next generation of jocks who go to save the world. It's not exactly a creative story, right? In the scene where Maverick is first introduced to his team, that he's responsible for conveying the information to them so they can go and save the day, he stands there and he holds up the manual and he says, this is the manual to the FA-18 ETOPS. And he says, it contains everything you need to know about your aircraft. I'm guessing you know it inside and out. And they all laugh. So does your enemy. What they don't know are your limits. I intend to find them, I intend to test them, and to push them. Today we begin with what you only think you know. You show me what you can become. End quote. Today at BSides, we're going to put down the manual. Today at BSides, I want you to show me what you can become. Today more than ever, cybersecurity has books, manuals, frameworks, certifications, digital platforms, collaboration locations, conferences, yes, we have plenty of them, and many, many other things by which we receive information. And knowledge has never been more accessible than it is today, right here. But when push comes to shove, the moments that matter aren't defined by the manuals or the letters after your name. The moments and your ability to matter to the company or organization that you work for are defined, they're defined by your passion. They're defined by your integrity, by the relationships that you have, by the experience that you bring to the table. That's where you can make the difference between what you and the enemy both know, but you hold the advantage. The moments that matter are life-changing. And you'll probably only have the chance to have those life-changing moments a couple of times in your career, maybe not even that often. I remember for me, the first moment where cyber became real, where it wasn't an exercise, it wasn't a drill, it wasn't an endless list of tickets that my boss needed me to get done, where what I did actually mattered. And it also was a day that I got given the nickname of Maverick. I worked for an organization where I flew all over the nation responding to cyber incidents. We had teams, they went out, they responded to the nation's biggest events, to biggest cyber events, and we got on boots on ground, we analyzed, we understood, and we helped. So my boss comes up to me, knocks on my door, and he said, John, I need you to get on an airplane. I need you to get on a plane this afternoon. And I said, okay, boss, what are we doing? And he explained. And he told me who I was going with. I'll admit I wasn't super excited about that particular analyst. But the analyst and I got on an airplane. We got our luggage, got to the airport, and we pulled up to the jetway. This was I was flying out of DC. And we pulled up to the jetway, and here's the airplane on the tarmac. And this is the kind of airplane that doesn't have the round jets underneath the wings. It has the spinny things that are called propellers. Cool, we got on one of those. And then we flew and we flew for hours and hours. And then we landed at this nice regional airport that had, I think, 2 gates. And then we got our rental car and we drove, and we drove, and we drove. We were in the great heartland of America. We drive and we come across a hill. And as we crest the hill, I see the building of where we're going. And it's not surrounded by homes and businesses. It is a hospital unto itself, sitting out in the middle of a field. Fairly sizable hospital, probably 300 cars in the parking lot to give you some kind of idea. So we pull up to this hospital. We park our car, we get past security, we ride the elevator, and we get up. And then we get into the executive boardroom. And I see the CIO, I see the CEO, I see the CFO, I see a bunch of other suited executives sitting there. And I will never forget what I saw as I looked into their eyes. I saw fear, I saw desperation, and I saw hopelessness. That was my first experience hands-on dealing with ransomware. And I learned something because I'd heard about ransomware. We'd been studying ransomware, rumors on the dark web ransomware. And at that moment, I thought ransomware was a flash in the pan. I thought we're going to see a few and it's going to go away. Man, have I never been more wrong. That hospital lost every one of its servers. It lost every one of its laptops and desktops. It lost the control of its networking equipment. And like most moderately managed networks back then, they kept their backups on the same network as their main systems, and so they lost their backups too. I spent the next week, or almost 2 weeks, working with their analysts. We went to Best Buy and bought every laptop made by every manufacturer with every configuration possible and jumbled together a user environment. And we bought servers express we bought everything that Newegg had to offer. Endorsement Go, Newegg, I don't know if they still exist. All right, we bought all kinds of random stuff. And I got to work with this cool stuff that half of you in the room have probably never touched. It's called magnetic tape. We found a warehouse. Literally, they did not know they existed. We found a warehouse and figured out how to reprogram the magnetic tape reader, and we reloaded backups that were like 7 years old to get them back operational. That was the geeky side. The executive side, I sat with their CEO, and we had to make decisions like, do you do operations in the operating room when you know that you don't have all the tools you need? I walked down the hall and I passed an old elderly lady sitting next to her dying husband who wasn't getting treatment because of a cyber attack. I watched a young kid whose broken leg couldn't be cast because they couldn't turn on the machine to make the plaster. That day, cyber became real for me. And I'll never forget the difference that it brought into my mind where that really mattered, where what I did changed lives. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the playbooks, and it's not about the tickets and the quotas and the patching. And dare I say to my team, don't hear me say this, it's not even about the data. It is. But no, for this conversation, it's not about the data. It's about the people. It's about the people that trust us and that depend upon us, and that when things matter, we come to the rescue. But it's also an interesting paradox, because the days when we succeed, this is the security paradox we have to deal with, the days where we succeed, nothing happens. Our best day results in nothing. What a weird phenomenon that is. When we patch our systems, when we intercept the phishing email, when we properly respond quickly enough like our SOC manager requires us to get that alert triage so that it doesn't spread, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, nobody cares except the weird geeky people who live in the dark. The business goes on. There aren't big celebrations. There's no candles to blow out, no headlines to read, because we did our job. So how do we find the motivation? How do we find the inner drive to keep moving forward and to keep going, to make that happen and to keep us rolling through the process? So that when we aren't always having the splashy side of the world or the quota that feels like we have widgets rolling off the line, how do we keep rolling through that? Now, most of us get started in cyber from the early up. We'll talk about kind of a classic career path. Most of us get started because we like puzzles. We like competition. We like challenge. Analytics. We like things that are hard for us to solve. But that burns out after a while. After a while, you get tired of solving problems that nobody cares about, and you get tired of solving or trying to solve problems you can't solve. Anybody in quantum out there? Quantum is so cool. It's so much fun, and you can't solve it, by the way. So if you love quantum, be prepared to not succeed, at least fully. But it's still really, really cool to play in. So we have this paradox that it's really, really fun and we're intriguing, but I'm going to get tired of it after a while. So how do I find that motivation so I can keep going in the long term, so I can stay engaged? I believe, and I'll put forward for us, that the way in which cyber matters and the way in which we can internalize that is by drawing the connection with the organizations that we support. Now, prior to standing here on stage, I was talking to several of you from the Air Force. I was talking to some of you from universities. I come from a critical infrastructure background. Let me talk just for a minute about CPS Energy. CPS Energy, I've been there about 4.5 years. By the way, if you don't know, we're the guys that push the power down the lines and some gas through the pipes to your homes, okay? We're the provider for here in San Antonio. If you live here, you depend upon us to do our job. And when we do our job, you don't notice. You just flip the switch and the lights come on. When is it that for me, my job, cybersecurity, becomes real? Every few months, I have the opportunity to take off the dress shoes and put on some steel-toed boots, pull on a hard hat, and get in the truck and ride along with the crew as they go out and they set a telephone pole, or they restring a wire. They dig a pole, dig a hole, drive a pipe. Those moments standing next to our field crews, I realize I matter. I had the chance to go out with our customer response units. They go to a resident's home where a mom is waiting for her power to come back on and her kids are sweating because it's hot and the air conditioning hasn't kicked in. And I get to see firsthand as our customer team is working with them as humans and our technicians are in the field, in the backyard, getting their wires restrung. Those moments for me are when my mission comes alive. So my question for all of you is, where is your mission? Maybe you're in healthcare and it's about protecting the patient. Maybe you're in retail and it's about protecting the customer. Critical infrastructure, it's about the community. Government, it's about the citizen. Find that mission, find that purpose, and make it yours. And live firsthand, so get those experiences, but also live on the stories of others and understand that when you sit together, they're coming together to understand and build that passion. And I'll give you an example. Next Tuesday, I have my entire team coming together. We're doing what's called an all hands. I call all my staff together, they listen to me preach for 4 hours, and then I feed them lunch. That's why they come. We're gonna kick off that meeting by having the head of our operations team come in, because I want my team to understand that if we don't do our cyber job, they can't do their electricity job. They can't pressurize the pipes to push gas through them if they don't have confidence in their network. That's my way of doing it at CPS. What's your way of doing it where you're at in that space? The people around us are where we find our values and we get through and we learn our stories. Now here at BSides today, we're going to have the opportunity to learn some stories. Some of that's going to be technical. Dustin's going to come out there and he's going to talk to us about GRC or the reality thereof. Okay? We're going to have Brian Lowe, who's going to come teach us about pen testing. I saw you out there, Brian. You're hiding from me somewhere. We're going to have Matt, who's going to teach us about malware. Trisha, who's going to teach us about some awareness, some security awareness aspects. Those are stories, and some of that is I'm going to go learn how PCAPs work, and I'm going to go learn how to write a more effective snort signature. Cool, awesome. But I'm also going to learn the story about why it matters. And don't lose that point about the story, because you're going to experience through them those moments that make cyber come alive. Not all of the sessions today and not all of the people you meet are going to be the ones who make a difference. Some of them are going to be a handshake and you're going to walk away and they're not. But when you do, you meet that person, make sure that it's not just a business card. By the way, we use these in the 80s. Okay, it's not just a business card. Hi, let me trade cards and I'll stick it in my Rolodex. That's where you put business cards. And it's not just a business card exchange. It's a connection. It's a relationship. It's the person you call when you need a friend or when they need a friend and when you need to work together. Let me tell you a story about one of my friends, Nikki. My second year at DHS, I volunteered to take on some interns. So they gave me 3. I think I wanted 1, they gave me 3. 2 of my interns were normal. They're average, totally cool people, well-educated, humble and walking in, a bunch of other things, really cool people. My third one was Nick Trezza. And he walked in as cocky as I've ever seen someone. He was the club president, he was the cyber club president, University of California, San Bernardino, and he knew it all. And he was quick to tell me he knew it all. And so I made it my mission that summer to humble him. We were back in Washington, D.C. I drug all 3 of them around to a whole bunch of different things. We went up on the Hill. We got to write some cyber legislation. We got to go on site to some of the cool cyber events that had occurred around the nation. We got to receive a hard drive that contains some of the most advanced malware the world had ever seen. We had some really cool experiences. It was phenomenal. And I did two things happened. 1, I taught Nick a whole bunch of stuff. Gave him experiences so he learned it. And 2, I failed at my mission to humble him. I got to the end of the year and I said, Nick, I think you should come work for me. Here's a job offer. And he looked back at me and he said, John, I'm too good for you. Those were not his words, but that's what he said. He said, John, I'm too good for you. I'm going to go work for Idaho National Labs, one of the DOE labs. And he went on to be a control systems analyst for them, where he supported a bunch of analytics and research in the development thereof and worked on some really cool Internet of Things items and other stuff. And then they got promoted up, and a few years later, they gave him control of a project called Malcolm. Now, there was an interesting thing about Malcolm. Malcolm was a DHS-funded project that I paid for through my DHS contract to INL, and he was now in charge of it. Malcolm is an open source product. It's basically a SIM with a bunch of sensors in the field designed for OT, and it's designed as an open source alternative for like co-ops and people who can't afford a full SIM, et cetera, and get you started. Cool. Awesome. I had decided at DHS that we did not have the funding, that there were higher priorities, and I defunded Malcolm. And Nick Trezza had the nerve to stand up to me in front of all of his bosses and all of my peers, and he challenged me on the funding of Malcolm. We were about halfway through the development of Malcolm. He had about 4 more years he needed before it was ready to launch. And he went up against me. And we argued, and then we debated, and then we negotiated in that order. And our final conclusion was, I said, Nick, I will give you 1 more year of funding. You can do whatever you do with that year, but at the end of the year, no discussion, no comment, we're done. You close out with whatever you've got. And 11 months later, he published his 4-year project with his team. Malcolm is alive. Malcolm is solidly supported by a bunch of others, and it's a fairly significant platform that's out there, and that's thanks to him and his leadership. He also went on to lead Cellar. Cellar is the world's #1 advanced demonstration capability. You can type on a keyboard and make things blow up. You can knock walls over. You can start fires. It's kind of a cool lab that they have. He ran that too. And then, since then, recently, he left Idaho National Labs, now lives in Manhattan, flies around the country, and does incident response to major things. And he does it for a company called Insane Cyber, which happens to be based right here in San Antonio. Go, Dan, if you're out there. Cool. Nick is out there. But Nick, for me, is one of those people that I call when I need motivated. And I was in New York a couple months ago, and I called up Nick, And I said, hey, let's grab drinks. Drinks always get the stories flowing. And we spent a little bit of time commiserating about the past and reminiscing about what it used to be in the good old days. And then we spent a whole bunch of time talking about what we were learning, what we were worried about, where we were succeeding, and where the industry was going. And I believe that I learned more from Nick than he learned from me that day. And we still stay in touch on a consistent basis. Nick, for me, is one of those enduring contacts who I trust implicitly. And all of you, as you build your cyber career, need the same thing. No matter where you're at in your career lifespan and growth, you need mentors and mentees. Teach and be taught in that area. Such a critical, fundamental concept. Where do we get those kinds of friends? We get them at conferences. Welcome to BSides, everyone, if I didn't say that yet. This is a great place to build a friend. It's a great place to build that connection. And some of that is done sitting in these chairs looking at people on stage with microphones, but a lot of that is done in the hallway. There's a lot of value in the networking here. There's peer groups. A lot of different groups out there, analysts, executives, everybody in between. There are 3 or 4 different big groups here in San Antonio. If you're not a member, become a member. Not endorsing any specific one. All of them are great. I'll get you introduced if you want. Become a member of a peer group. Slack channels, fantastic way to meet someone virtually. Good luck on finding out their real name. And other ways. But build those friendships that move forward. And then hold on to those friendships after they leave. This last spring, we had an intern at CPS, Amir. He's a graduate of UTSA. Cool kid, great kid. I look back and I watch when he came in with us, and I watch what he knew, what he didn't know. By the way, he wasn't a Nick. He wasn't quite as cocky. He wasn't even close to as cocky. Amir came in. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, but the times that I did, I used that time to not only share with him my knowledge, but to learn from him. And he left CPS, it was an internship, he left. He's now up at Cloudflare up in Austin, doing some cool stuff. And I continue to stay in touch with him. Talked to him a few nights ago, and he taught me. Phenomenal. Another enduring connection. We're going through our career paths. And those career paths are somewhat defined by job titles. I get asked a lot, how do I grow my cyber career? And to every one of you that would like to come up after the meeting and ask me, how do I become you when I grow up? You'll all get the same answer, which is, well, I advise you not to. Kind of things, right? If you want to be a CISO, let me tell you about what it's really like being a CISO and make sure that that's what you want. But career paths are less about job titles and more about transitions. We begin our careers with a spirit of curiosity. We're there to solve the puzzle. We don't know much of anything, and we're okay with that. We go in and we try things, and we play with things, and we do really, really dumb things because it's basically consequence-free. And we make a lot of mistakes, and it's okay to get a 0 on the page. It's not even an F. It's not a 70. It's a 0, right? We didn't even come close to that topic. Curiosity is getting us there, and we slowly gain that knowledge, that experience, and we build that fire within us. And then we move from a spirit of curiosity to one of courage. This generally is the transition when you switch from doing things in labs and ranges into real world, I'm actually changing a firewall that people use, other than your family who complains the internet doesn't work. Courage, where I actually have to do those things that I've been learning, where if I fail, someone can't do their job or someone's data gets taken. Courage, because I still don't know everything I need to know. Courage, because I'm not quite sure, but I've got to take a step forward. And guess what? Most of the things you do, you're going to do right. And what did we learn 5 minutes ago about what happens when you do the right thing? Nobody cares. Or let me say that differently. Nobody pauses and gives you a pat on the back for every right move. But you will make some mistakes. You will tip over a network. You will block the internet. You will do a few of those things. And guess what? That's okay. It won't be okay in the moment. You're looking down at you going, what the did you do? But it's okay. Because you need the courage to stand back up and do it again. Or in Top Gun terms, keep putting them up there, he'll engage. That courage moves on to passion. When do we hit the passion stage? Now, it's not that we haven't had passion all along, and it's not that we aren't still in a spirit of discovery, but the passion stage for me is when you become that subject matter expert. When you are the one who's building and growing, you're the one who knows the answers most of the time. And this, for me, from a job title mapping, is somewhere around the architect and the engineer stage, right? You're the one that they call upon to be able to lead. But something else phenomenal happens at this stage. Because yes, you are architecting your businesses or your organization's solutions, but you're also sharing with others. And you will hit a moment as an engineer, as a detection engineer, where you go, hey, ISAC, here's some cool stuff I threw together. It comes with no warranties, promises, or guarantees, because you disclaimer, by the way, you should, kind of thing. You throw them out, something out there. They call you up the next day and they go, oh my gosh, you saved my bacon. And you go, what? Well, I don't even remember what I put out there. That's a cool moment. You start influencing others, impacting others, and being able to have that process. And then we can talk about responsibility. The stage of responsibility when you make that fatalistic decision, I want to be a manager. Again, my advice, don't do it. Management, the biggest thing to know about management is this. I don't care who you ask and I don't care who promises you, you do walk away from technical. You do not get to keep your same technical skills. You do not get to get hands-on nearly as much as you want. Your job now is all that red tape that everybody hates, except for a few people. That's okay. But that's your job. But there's something cool about management. All the way up in your career prior to this, you've been in what I call the one-to-one relationship. You give an hour and you get 1 unit of value back. If you're really good, you get like 1.1 return. And if you're really bad, well, you might get like 0.7. But you give an hour, get an hour. As a manager, you sit down with your team and you spend an hour instructing, setting expectations, and providing resources and guidance. And you come back and you get 50 hours of output or 500 hours of value. And you now steer a ship where the impact you cause is more than just yourself. That's the flip side of giving up your technical. That's the flip side of giving up your hands-on keyboard. Yes, I can still deal with PCAP. No, I suck at it. And you go start being a force multiplier. And one more, vision, and this is where we get to start thinking about systems. We stop thinking about, and I'm going to mention AI, sorry, I promised myself I wasn't going to do it. We stop thinking about prompt injection that's hitting our system today, and we start thinking about what generative AI or agentic AI in 5 years is going to be needed to be used by the business, and how that's going to affect dynamically generated data, and how I'm going to build a foundation today to have a very flexible tomorrow. That's system thinking. And that's where you're at that executive level. The career paths we take are phenomenal, and they need to be right for us. I encourage you not to pick a career path based upon dollars, although dollars matter, please chase them, but don't pick it just on dollars, and don't pick it based on title. Pick your career path based upon you. Pick your path based upon what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. Pick it based upon the mission of the organization that resonates with you at that point in your life. And you will find that it's not just about solving the puzzle in the moment, but that it's about saving lives. And it's about saving people. Because cyber, at the end of the day, it always has been, and it will continue to be inherently human. The moments that come alive for us aren't found in the manuals. The books are cool. The books are fantastic. There are some people in this audience who probably have 20, 30, maybe 40 certifications. Kudos and congrats. You are really smart. Do you have the experience? Do you have the relationship? Do you have the network that you need to be successful? Because that's where, when the bad guys come and they unleash all that they have to offer, you will know if you've got what it takes to be the elite. the best of the best, because we will make you better. Today, BSides San Antonio 2026, you will discover what you're capable of becoming. This is a great opportunity. So go show me what you're made of. Thank you, guys. You want some Q&A? I'm glad to.
Jonathan, on behalf of BSides, thank you for opening this year's conference. I'm grateful not only for your generosity of your time presenting to our audience and attendees,